the Me, Myself and Hopefully You podcast. My name is Tarek, and this week I sit down with the founder of RNS Meals and the man who dropped out of university, used his overdraft to buy a crock pot, and then went back to finish his degree only to drop out again, left his dream job at Google, the one, the only, SIMMY DHILLON. We discuss all this and more. Let's get straight into it. Simmy, I want to start off asking you about growing up. What were you like as a student? What was your school experience like? And how do you reflect back on that?
Yeah, so I went to a state school. And I think growing up, obviously had Jay as an older brother, but my parents didn't go to kind of university or do A-level. So there was no kind of clear, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like I imagine for a lot of Asian people growing up, there's very like a big focus on education, and I don't feel like I was surrounded by people who are really pushing themselves to do incredible things or anything. It was a very average school. I wouldn't say it was a bad school. I wouldn't say it's a great school at all, and not many people went on to do like crazy things, but I think me and Jay were always kind of pushing each other, and I think where he really excelled in football, I always kind of excelled at school. And from a young age, I was always very, very good at maths. And it's something that I really enjoyed being good at. And I think I was always quite naturally entrepreneurial. So yeah, from a young age, we always kind of, the typical kind of selling sweets on the playground, always kind of very hardworking, I think is like the best way to put it. We'd be training for football, whatever else we were doing. We were exercising lots. We were eating healthily, of course, eating lots of food.
Not eating the sweets that you were selling, no.
No, it's funny actually that everyone, I think that's one of my advantages were that everyone else was selling sweets would always kind of dip into their own stock. But that was my policy. I would never eat my own stock.
Not eat your own product, yeah.
Whereas now, obviously, I do. I have it every day. But it's something that's healthy. So yeah, it's nice to be selling healthy food.
Yeah, no. So I saw your LinkedIn post about selling sweets. I actually replied to that. Why do you think? I feel like every entrepreneur started off with selling sweets in the playground. Do you think you always had this entrepreneurial sort of inkling? You always wanted to go down that route. Was that your dream, or was it just something you wanted to do to make a bit of money?
I think it's definitely it's a fun challenge. I think the reason why so many is such a cliche, but the reason so many people do it is because that's who you know, that's who your potential market is. And what do all kids want? All kids want sweets, and it's affordable. You can buy it, you can sell it, you have access to the corner shop or supermarkets, wherever you want to buy it from. And it's a tough market, right? There are lots of competitors, other kids selling, canteens, shops on the way to school. But I guess it teaches you how to sell, to negotiate, to and you can take it to what you want to take it to, because I think for me, a lot of people would get their stuff on the way to school. I was always kind of trying to buy in bulk from the supermarkets as opposed to going to corner shops, and trying to get products that other people couldn't get to have a bit of a USP.
Yeah, so I know I'm focusing on this a lot, but I've asked so many entrepreneurs have told me, and I always find it interesting what their strategy was. Sort of whilst they were selling. What was your strategy? What your USP? Well, you were quite clearly buying in bulk, but what were you trying to do to stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, so I think one of my things was consistency. Sometimes I think it's quite funny. You look back at school, so many of the kids just went to the supermarket and stole stuff. So their markup was huge. They were buying Galaxy bars, the pound Galaxy bars, and selling for 50. I was like, I can't compete with these guys. But what I can do is I can turn up every day. So it was funny how one of my USPs was that you knew I would always be on the playground, whereas other people, some days they might not be there, some days they might not have stock, but consistency is one thing that I always relied on. And I tried to do other things like I would literally go to school in the summer wearing a coat just to fill it up with extra pockets to fit it.
Nice.
And I would take my boot bag in every day. My boot bag was just full of cans, drinks, bottles, sweets. So yeah, I'd go to school probably carrying like 10 kg, and my walk home was always quicker than my walk back. just because I was carrying less stock. Yeah, I do things like in the summer, I would put my cans and bottles in the fridge the night before, so my products were always cooler. Yeah, little things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever get in trouble for it, or?
Funnily enough, a lot of people got caught. I did it from year 7 up to year 11, and I think because I was a good student, I was always kind of like one of the brightest in the class. The teachers liked me, so they maybe turned a blind eye. Once a teacher caught me, and I think it was like year 8. I was like, oh shit, like I'm gonna get in trouble now. And I was more so worried about that. I would have to kind of go quiet for a week and not sell anything for a week, and lose out the money. And she confiscated my stock. I remember she caught me on the playground. She was like, come into my office now. And as I was following her, I was taking stuff out of my pockets and hiding it in my bag. So when she said, can I have your stock? I was like, oh, here's everything. And it was like a fraction. I could hold on to it. And funnily enough, she passed it on to my head of year at the time, as a rugby teacher. And because I was in the rugby team, another one of those teachers who really liked me. And I remember one day he was like, I need to have a word with you about a couple of cans of Pepper Seeds and some Vimtos. And I was like, oh, okay. And on Monday, he walked past me, saw me, didn't say anything. So I once got caught, but never got in trouble. So I was quite lucky.
So what did you ever get? Because you were saying that you were sort of, the teachers liked you. Did you ever get in trouble for anything? What was the worst thing you ever got in trouble for?
To be honest, I didn't really get in trouble for anything. I think I was quite clever and avoided getting in trouble. I think, yeah, obviously kids, you get up to a lot of nonsense, but I was always made sure that I kind of never got caught.
You were one of those annoying ones that was really smart, but you'd mess around and get away with it as well.
Yeah,
I can already tell. Yeah,
I remember one of my close friends, one of my best friends at school. I used to sit next to him in maths, and obviously I was finished so much quicker than everyone else. And the teacher thought that he was copying me because he was doing so poorly, so she moved him away from me.
Yeah.
Because in the test he'd do okay, but in class he just always fell behind. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. So you stopped doing that in year 11, and then I'm guessing you put your head down for your A levels. Were you doing anything business related, or were you just sort of working in school?
Yeah, so I was obviously focusing on A levels, but at the same time, I had actually 3 part-time jobs. So I worked in like Waitrose, are obviously the best part-time job you can get. You get a bonus, it's cushy, lovely customers, no complaints.
Lovely stuff, yeah. I went into Waitrose for the first time and I realized how nice it is. No brown people though.
No. Yeah, it was nice working there because I never shopped there before. And now they give you a discount. I was like, sometimes stuff are reduced, I could buy it, but otherwise, I won't be shopping there. Yes, I worked there, and it was actually down the road from my school. So I used to, there's another thing where when I was at school, the teachers were all like, you cannot work during your free periods. But because I was so like far ahead of people in class, in my free periods, I'd just go and work, and no one ever questioned it. I would often just not go to school. No one ever had an issue, to be honest, which was great. I think I had a lot of independence. So I worked at Waitrose. I also did tutoring, which actually started when I was 11. So I started doing maths tutoring when I was 11. And that was like, so my first part-time job was very early. And I did that throughout from 11 to 18. And then I also took on, I did football refereeing, which was another thing that I did. I think there was another thing that I did. I can't quite remember now. Over summer, I would always take on like a full-time job. So I'd go to an office and say, like, I would literally do the worst, like, scanning piece of paper for 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, paid minimum wage. But it was good. It was money. So I'd always do various different things like that.
Yeah. So it seems like you were, even though like a 9 to 5 isn't entrepreneurial, the fact that you actually went and asked for it, the fact that you were from 11, you were tutoring, you were always sort of in that entrepreneurial mindset. And that didn't change when you went into uni, because that's when you started Rice and Spice. Tell me a bit more about the thinking about that. When did you all of a sudden decide to set up the business? And what were the initial first few weeks like?
Yeah, so I think I always knew from a very young age that I wanted to start a business. However, I felt like I needed to wait till I was older to have more knowledge, more capital to start, more expertise. So I started it as like, I'm going to start a business one day, but here's a little project, here's a trial, kind of just something. I didn't think it was going to grow into what it would be now. So yeah, I started it. It's something that I actually wanted to start whilst I was still in sixth form, but I didn't have the audience, and it's just difficult to sell to sixth formers, and they don't have any money. And I didn't. It would be difficult for a sixth form to sell to adults back then. But I finally had this market, and I knew just from other students that like people can't cook at uni, people don't want to cook, and everyone gets takeaways. So I thought I would start this thing, and it would be like a healthy, convenient option. And yeah, just started cooking, marketing it, and it just really flew. Everyone loved it. I loved it. Yeah, I was just always like, I guess like first year of university, everyone is so friendly. Everyone's talking to everyone. So it's the perfect time for me to start it. Yeah, and it just really took off from there. Friends would tell friends, students would tell other students, and word of mouth just really took off.
Yeah, how did you balance that then with your studies? Obviously, I know you're in first year, so maybe it's not as much pressure. But what was the sort of how did you balance it all?
So obviously, first year isn't too tough. And what I actually did do is I didn't start it until January. So first term, I just cracked on, got things done well. I had like my three. I had 50% of my exams in January, 50% in the summer. Did my January exams, got first, and I was like, okay, great. Could like kind of a bit of reassurance, like I'll be fine now. So it's literally a day after I finished my exam, I was like, I'm going to start this thing. So it was always back in mind to start it, but that was kind of like out of the way, start now. I think the second term, I just didn't go to any lectures, didn't do anything. I was just like, I know that this is going to be easy kind of thing. So yeah, I just literally didn't do any lectures, any tutorials in second term. Just spent my whole time running the business. It was really fun. And then a week before the term was due to end, and you have like Easter break. I think Easter break was like 3 weeks. Or 2 weeks. I made mine 3 weeks. So I took an extra week. So I left university early because I was like, I need 3 weeks to just smash out everything that I've missed. And then came back and then did really well and got first all in my summer exams as well. So I think first year was a perfect time to do it. It wasn't too intense. Yeah. And yeah, I was just having fun, working a lot on it, spending a lot of time on it, but it didn't feel like work. It was just very fun.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because I'd heard that you'd obviously started this business at university first year. I started this podcast in first year university last year, mainly because COVID sort of ruined my university experience. So I just decided to start a podcast, and it was great. I'm interested in because I remember hearing that you used your overdraft to buy your rice cooker. That's a big risk, going into your overdraft. What was that decision like? Did you just decide, I'm going to need this, and did you know it was going to, be worth it in the end, or was it, I'm just going to go for it?
Yeah, I think obviously I say it sounds better going to your overdraft. It's kind of like you're at the you're waiting for your student loan to come in, so my kind of balance is zero, and I always put my savings in another account. So I was just okay, balance is zero. I've got no money right now. It wasn't much. It's what like rice cookers aren't expensive. Like, I'm just going to buy rice cookers, buy some ingredients. Like it's 0% overdraft. Do you know what I mean? So I was just like dip into it. Probably was only like 50 quid to be honest to get everything. And I was just like, great. And then just from there, just never looked back.
Yeah. What were your reaction sort of from your parents? Did your parents know about it? What did they say, or did they think it was a good idea?
I didn't tell them about it for a while actually, and I didn't tell any of my mates about it for a long time. And RNS was initially completely anonymous. No one knew it was me. So I kept it anonymous. I was like, okay, this is going to succeed based on the product and just the product and the service. So I didn't tell anyone about it until kind of it was doing like it was obvious, if you know what I mean. I was catching up with my family. I was like, oh, I just need to go and cook because that's some meals. Just like kind of slipped it in there, kind of thing. Like, oh, cool, just nice. They're always really supportive and stuff.
How important do you think? Because I always think, Asian families are always a bit different, especially with the sort of way that they react to certain things. So obviously you're doing very well at uni, and Asian families are always on it for like, you need to do the best, you need to focus, you need to not mess around, whatever. Did you ever get that feeling from anyone in your family, or was it always just sort of, do your own thing where you left your own devices? And how do you feel like you were lucky? In the sense of your family didn't put too much pressure on you?
Yeah. So you obviously get a lot of Asian parents who will be very pushy, like, you need to go and study this thing, typically they're kind of like
medicine or law, always.
Yeah, law. You need to go and do this, you need to do that. And they're like, no, don't like worry about other things, other distractions, like don't go out, like very strict. Whereas for me and Jay, obviously Jay, my brother, didn't go to sixth form, didn't go to university because he was like pursuing a professional football career, which is obviously a lot of Asian parents would be like, no, it's too risky,
yeah,
whatever else. And not even getting into the detail for like how much the odds are stacked against you into going to professional football, especially being Asian as well. So like obviously going off that story, you kind of get an idea of like what they're like as people, and they're just like going to do what you love, and they're obviously very supportive, but very much kind of hands off as well. So yeah, like I could have chosen whatever I wanted to do, and they would have supported it anyway. So yeah, there was never any kind of like pressure from them to say don't do this, do this. And I think I've always been quite independent, where I've just like, I'll crack on with whatever. Like a lot often I'll do things and not tell my parents until kind of like much later on. So I took a year out of university, going into my second year. I was like, I need to take a year out to work on this full time. Withdrew from like, or like kind of deferred lots of exams, decided to take a year of university, put life savings into this kind of commercial property, didn't tell my parents, and just kind of cracked on with it. Like it's funny, even when I went to Google, got this great corporate job, everyone's like really proud, lots of people, parents would be like, oh, well done.
Yeah.
And when I quit my job, I didn't tell my parents for like months. And
for months?
I didn't tell anyone for months. I didn't put it on social media for a good kind of 6 months afterwards. I left in kind of like March, April 21, and I only put it on kind of social media in kind of September, just because I was like, don't need to tell anyone, just can kind of crack on with the business now with no distractions. And then after maybe like 3 or 4 months, or a couple of months, I think my mum kind of realized, I was just like, oh, by the way, I don't work at Google anymore, I've left. And she's like, okay, kind of thing. And my dad only found out when I posted on social media, because I was just like, oh yeah, I just don't feel like there's any need to kind of discuss it. I was just like, I'll crack on with whatever I need to get done.
Yeah, no, fair play. I didn't know it was that, like, because I remember seeing the post when I saw it. I was like, this guy's working at Google and he's left Google. That's mental. And you did a grad scheme. You worked at Rothschild, I believe, as well. And then and you described working at Google as a dream. So what was it that made you feel like, were you earning enough to go, right, this can be a full-time job? Or was it like, I'm going to take the risk and put all in and hope that Rice and Spice can become a full-time thing?
Well, I've obviously been doing it. I think the point when I left, I'd been doing it for 4 years part-time, not taking any money from it. I've always been very kind of frugal and never spent a lot of money. Obviously, running the business, making good money from it, running, like working in banking, working in Google, you get paid good money. But I've never kind of like started spending much more than I need, kind of thing. Obviously, you get more income, you can treat yourself to nicer things, you can go on holidays, you can go to nicer places, you can not have to think about buying things like buy a new laptop, buy a new mouse, buy anything. And it's like, now I don't really need to think about any of that stuff, which is great to be in that position. But it's not like I'd ever go out and spend silly money on things. So yeah, when it came to the point, it was just kind of more, it wasn't really a money decision at all. It was more an enjoyment decision and a fulfillment decision. And I just felt like,
so go on to sort of Rice and Spice itself now. Obviously, it's interesting because earlier on you spoke about how you didn't really have your face on it, but now what I really like about RNS is it's the personal side to it. It's a family-run business. We always see yourself, your brother Jay, and your mum on there as well. How did it feel to employ your mum? Because I know that I listened to a podcast that you did a few months ago about sort of your mum not being able to find a job because she's been looking after you guys for so many years. What was that feeling like to go, Mum, I'm going to hire you. You can leave your job and you can work for me.
Okay.
Oh. 1 second, sorry. Sorry about that. Something just started going on the speaker.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What was it like to employ your mum and tell her that she can work for you?
Yeah. So obviously she kind of, as you mentioned, growing up, she was kind of like a full-time stay-at-home mum, as well as doing other jobs. Because obviously couldn't afford to just raise us, had to kind of work part-time jobs. Obviously, the jobs that you can do that are flexible are things like supermarket or just like those kind of more blue collar jobs. So she's always kind of working at a supermarket from a very young age. And to be fair, not only did she work at Tesco's from since I was born, but she also had like various other part-time jobs as like managing. And that's probably why I was just like, oh, it's very natural to have 3 part-time jobs because I've seen my mum do it before. Obviously she never complained, was very like a very content person. But it got to the point where I was like, Mum, let's get involved in RNS and like have some fun because we needed her. Like she was a great cook and really like in a funny way was like a kind of third co-founder. And then it got to the point where I actually like, Mum, she was doing like 4 part-time days at Tesco. And like, can you do 3? Can you work on RNS more? Can you do 2? Can you do 1? And I was like, actually, you know what, just hand in notice and you never need to work for anyone else again. And in a weird way, it's like kind of even now, she obviously we kind of like retired her, but in a funny way where it's just like she's still doing stuff, but it's for us and it's a lot more flexible. And even like a couple of weeks ago, I said to her, well, actually, now you're actually retired. You don't need to go in. We've had enough people that you literally don't need to. She was like, oh, well, I'm going to go and get a job somewhere else now. Because obviously that's her nature to go and like work and do stuff. She wants to keep herself busy. So we're kind of, I was like, no, I don't want you to do like a manual job. I want you to kind of like pursue things in life that you haven't had time to do before that you wanted to do. So yeah, she kind of made a list of some things. It's quite funny. She said stuff like she wanted to learn a new language. She wanted to learn how to code. She wanted to join a netball team. So all these things that are quite kind of like you expect teenagers or people in their 20s to do. And I was just like, no, yeah, why not? Why not go and pursue them now? She's very energetic and youthful. So yeah, I'm not sure she'll actually do those things, but it's nice that she has opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I love that. I love the netballing, coding. That's brilliant. She could end up setting up her own business with coding. Honestly, the money that's there would be mental. And fair play to her as well. I like I said, I just think it's so brilliant to see your mum on social media all the time. Like sort of, I don't know, it just adds another friendly face to it. And I think that's what a lot of people like about Rice and Spice is the family element of it. So how does it? Is it just you? Is it you and your brother who own it 50-50? Is it you who own it 100% and you employ your family, or what's that like?
Yeah. So I started it, and then after a few months I was like to Jay and Mum, this is working really well in Bristol, you guys should start it in back home in Hertfordshire. And initially Jay was like, nah, that's long. And that's kind of the way Jay is sometimes. And I was like, nah, we're going to do it. So I was like, Mum, we're going to start it. I'm going to send you through orders and Jay will basically have to help you because obviously he said no, but he would help. So that happened and Jay started helping and we were all kind of doing it together. Again, it was just meant to be a project. It was never meant to be a business kind of thing. And then we set it up as a proper kind of limited company. And at the time, it was just kind of like, I put myself as like the owner because I kind of started it and we weren't sure, we didn't have an accountant, but I was just like, Jay's working, I'm not working. Maybe it's safer to just put myself down as things like tax reasons, whatever, because obviously I didn't have a lot of income. And kind of over time, we've never really spoken about it, but it's kind of like the way we see it is it's 100% family owned. We haven't actually split any equity in any way, but yeah, we kind of know that we will always kind of like look after ourselves as family, first and foremost kind of thing.
And so what has that been like then? So I've always been scared of going to business with family. I just feel like there's when there's money involved, there's always risk. So how have you sort of balanced that? And have there ever been points where it's gotten a little bit heated and you've had to like step away, or any disagreements? What's it been like running a family-owned business?
Yeah, I think a lot of money causes a lot of problems in a lot of families, but it's never really caused problems in our family. So we've never had an argument about money within the business. The only probably argument we've had about money in the business is like, should we buy this or should we buy that? It's just kind of like typical business thing. So yeah, the challenges that we have are in most businesses, I guess people kind of like polite and kind of, you should this, you that. And maybe we're just kind of quite direct and honest, and some people might call it brutal, but you can call it direct or honest or whatever it is. So yeah, it just means we're very direct and honest with each other. And when we've hired other people, they might be like, oh wow, like this is maybe even a bit kind of awkward for them if me and Jay are kind of officially debating something, but they might be like, oh, like, are they gonna like fall out or whatever? I was like, no, because like in half an hour we'll be best mates again, and we know it's fine. But yeah, so I guess like what we've had to do is adapt to kind of how we communicate with the fact that other people are around us as well. But yeah, it's never really been too much of an issue.
Yeah, and it seems like you're expanding the business is getting bigger and bigger now. You know, I saw it on social media, but I saw recently that you're trying to hire an extra sous chef, I believe. You're giving a 250 referral. So if someone goes through this podcast to you, I'll take that 250. Yeah. I heard I was listening to a podcast that you did in 2020, I think it was, and you were talking about how this business becoming a full-time thing it would be a dream of yours. Well, now it is a full-time thing. How does that feel?
Yeah, obviously, when it happened, like I said, I didn't tell anyone, and I wasn't really posting on LinkedIn. I wasn't really sharing too much about business stuff. So I kind of one day said to you that I'm going to leave and work on business full time, and they're like, "Yeah, great, go and kind of follow your dream." And I guess it's quite anticlimactic because I didn't tell anyone. I think it's for me personally, it was very proud. I felt kind of relieved, really proud, I guess. But kind of quietly proud to myself. I sat down, just kind of reflected, kind of, I think proud is the main word. I kind of thought about all the challenges that I've been through to get to that point, all the struggles that I had, like thinking about kind of my younger self as well. But yeah, it's just a really kind of proud time, really happy time. Felt very kind of fulfilled, free. I guess even, excited about the future. Yeah.
Who would you say are some of your biggest clients? Because I saw you through Camilla Ainsworth's story. But who would you say are some of your biggest clients? And is there any in particular that you go, oh my God, I can't believe we got this particular person on board?
Not really. I think because we're kind of used to it now, I think the footballers because if we're really huge football fans, it's always been the kind of footballers that we thought was really cool. I wouldn't say, I'm trying to think.
Have you got any Liverpool footballers on board?
Unfortunately not, no. We have a few footballers who kind of used to play for Liverpool, kind of as youth players, but not like kind of first team footballers. I'm trying to think. I should have an answer for this because like whenever I ask it, I should have that kind of, oh, we said so-and-so. Yeah, I mean, like Akifem was obviously a really cool one. I think Damari Gray, obviously from the Premier League, which is cool. So a few different people. Mario Toje is obviously a huge rugby player. We served quite a lot of the women's England footballers, England rugby players. We've done like reality TV stars. We've done like kind of like, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not into it as much, but we've sent them to like kind of was it Nathan Dorr, the DJ. Some people are obviously huge fans of his, but like for me personally, I don't really follow it that much.
So I want to ask you about, so obviously it started off with jerk chicken and rice, I believe, and now it's like you've got loads of different meals. What's the process like? Is it just stuff that you enjoy? Are you experimenting with meals? Is your mum experimenting with meals? What's that whole process like?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mix. So it initially started off with just stuff that I enjoy. So then the next thing was like peri chicken. We put like a chicken curry. We just did lots of different recipes that we enjoyed. And then as we started hiring more chefs, we kind of sit down and look at kind of trends in food, like what's popular right now. So like say chimichurri or something that's just sprung up, not something I've ever had before, but it's like, oh, that's a huge trend. People really enjoy that. People want to buy that. So we sat with the chefs and kind of developed new recipes. And now we kind of like, as we hire better and better chefs, it's kind of like before it was like, everything was dictated by myself. And now I was like, I can go back and forth with the chefs and kind of give them more responsibility gradually, which is really nice.
What would you say then is sort of to carry on from that? What's the future of RNS looking? Where do you want to see it? And have you ever considered going on The Apprentice and trying to get that 250k investment?
Yeah. When I was younger, I thought, I actually love Apprentice. I was like, I want to go on Apprentice, win Apprentice. But yeah, it's not something that well, firstly, I think you have to go there for like, was it like 8 weeks or something, or 10 weeks or 12 weeks? And I don't think I could take that amount of time away from the business, to be honest. So yeah, I don't think that's probably one for us. But in terms of future, it's obviously just kind of scaling up what we're currently doing. We have a good model, it works, people love it, and there are so many people across the UK who want what we have to offer, a kind of healthy meal delivery service, because it's not a recipe box. You've obviously got HelloFresh and Gusto, which are recipe boxes. It's not that. It's more towards time-conscious people. So yeah, just kind of reaching more and more people and continue to improve the product, and yeah, lots of things that we can kind of just continue to improve.
Yeah. Who would you, if you could pick one dream client, someone that you could, provide food, who would that dream client be?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I just think about like Liverpool players, right? Yeah. So you think about someone like Mo Salah, yeah, right? It'd be really, really, really cool. I think maybe someone like Stephen Bartlett would also be really cool. Yeah, someone like that would be cool. I can
see Stephen Bartlett. Because he's into Huel and that, so I can see Stephen Bartlett because he's always talking about saving time with Huel. So maybe you never know. You never know. Maybe. So I want to ask you just sort of one final question. It's the question that I ask sort of all my guests at the end of it. I started this podcast because I was in my first year of uni and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I thought I'd interview some people and hear what they're doing and hopefully get some inspiration from them. So I want to ask you this question. I want to ask you, if you could go back and speak to your 20-year-old self, what piece of advice would you give?
I just take a few minutes to think about this.
How old are you right now, by the way?
25.
25, okay. So 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago, wow. So I was literally just starting RNS or just started it. Yeah, I would just say, just don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to try different things. I would say that to like other 20-year-olds, to myself, like my advice to other 20-year-olds would be, don't be afraid to take risks and try different things and do things that your friends might think are weird, that other people might think are weird or like you shouldn't do. But I was always like that anyway. So maybe not to myself, I would say that. To myself, I would say take even more risks. Yeah.
What do you, okay, well, just a quick follow-up from that then. What do you regret not doing with RNS so far?
Maybe things like pushing things more for earlier. So for example, we launched nationwide delivery in like 2020, could have done that 2 years earlier. We hired staff now. We need to hire more staff. Maybe we should have started hiring earlier. We aren't pushing, or like we're actually, a thing that I forgot to mention was rebranding. We're going through a process of rebranding, adding, like, making it a bit more professional. Maybe we should have started that earlier. So it's just like, obviously all of these things are risks. Hiring people's risks, launching new things are risks. I'd say just earlier, just starting things earlier.
Everything earlier, take bigger risks earlier. Yeah, fair enough. And one final question: are Liverpool going to win the quadruple?
After last night, I think we have a good chance. I would be very surprised if we didn't win 3 trophies. Obviously 3 are in our hands. Huh?
I'll cry if that happens. I need you not to get anything. If you finish the season with just the Carabao Cup, I'll be so happy.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we've got Chelsea and then Real Madrid now in the finals, making it look like we're obviously more favourites. Like favourites against Chelsea, favourite against Real Madrid. We're obviously not favourites in the league because it's out of our hand. But hopefully City have kind of like lost their heads a bit after last night, and maybe they might just fall apart.
That would happen. Great. You never know. We'll see.
Yeah.
So that's it for this week's episode of the Me, Myself and Hopefully You podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did enjoy, then please feel free to leave a like, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on next week's episodes, and share us on Instagram tagging at MMHY podcast. Once again, thank you so much to Simmy DHILLON for taking the time to come on the podcast. I really, really do appreciate it. Please do follow him on at Simmy DHILLON on Instagram and at RNS Meals. Unfortunately, they have found a chef, so I'm not going to get the £200, but it is what it is. Finally, we are also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you want to listen on the go. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Until next time.